Part 4, where I left off. Let me see if I can pull this up. Okay. Um, I was talking about how they each had to roast a lamb, so that's why I'm using the word roast, and that's according to their family size. And then, if not, they were supposed to, if there's too small of the family for one full ram, it was their neighbor. Now, and to share, not to take one nearest your house. This so now we know that they had herds for their meat supply as a slave. So, like I said, slaves are not slaves as you intentionally think what a slave is. Um, Remember, this is almost 2,800 years ago, I think, something like that. Maybe not that long ago, but anyways, um, and you're supposed to always share the ram from you. You can't go to an outsider to get a ram. Okay, so that's the intent of what's being here. Nearest to his house will take and share one. The neighbor that's near him as well is going to eat with them, and the ram will be unblemished and a yearling, a year old. So um, it'll be taken from your rams, okay, from rams. And I wanted to make sure that the word rams actually got to mean yours. But you notice here it's rams and goats. A lot of people would not understand that today that, oh, there's goats too. Well, that's because they don't study the text. But the format, I can only use one. So it was correct that they only used rams instead of goats. So I forgot to check to make sure all the buttons worked and it's actually recording. So, and everyone together as my nation, Israel, is to dine that night. And Israel, for the first time, he's announcing that, whoops, that's the L. And like I said, when I'm using all these letters as capital letters, now we know why I do this. When I'm speaking of the nation Israel, Israel will always, and that's the good Israel, because later it's going to be used with small capital letters, meaning nation, because one needs to be represent, these are the good Israelis, and then it's going to be when the Jews start taking over the text and they start ruling as a power that needs to be defined in the text. And the best way I can do that would be capitalize and make all small capitalized letters. Dine at twilight, and this does mean after or as the sun has gone down. Listen to me, it does sound like a flat earther when I say go down, but we still have that in our language today. But when the sun is no longer seen, that's when they were to start dining. Um, and what is left over until morning, you are to burn it with in a fire. Okay, burn it with fire, burn it in a fire. Um, and it is, and you will eat it and celebrate. Now, celebrate comes from when our Creator talks to them about not only extending it as one day, they're going to celebrate it for 7 days and then restart on this next beginning, which would be the holiest day. These first days of the week are the holiest, not a Sabbath at the end. They're wrong because I just showed you that the first one is the first day. And he's going to tell them that the first day, I had to add the word first day here to be remembered and celebrated. Here's the word celebrate. They had to celebrate this, and then later, like I'm saying, it's going to be 8 days long. Okay. So, and even in this first 8 days, they aren't supposed to do any work. They are supposed to partake in a celebration. Okay. And being it's the summer solstice, there is this time where they don't need to actually be out harvesting food or gathering food, okay? And I have passed over their sons. I had to add the words ed here. So you'll, instead of me saying Passover, I will be using the word passed over or his passing over, as I killed the Egyptians. I couldn't killed their sons. I wanted to make sure I put Egyptians. I killed the Egyptians because here I'm adding the word sons. This should be this one here. Those two buttons are so close. But I'm when I do this, I'm saying I'm adding these words. So um, and their first day will be remembered and celebrate as a forever, not ordinance, a statute. A statute is his highest command, and there are only two statutes: celebrating the Passover and circumcision of their sons. Those are a statute, okay, the highest. The commandments, all 12 of them, and you're going to see that. Uh, I think I've already done that video, but the things here, I'll show you where there are. Yes, no, this is Exodus. It's going to happen. So I'm going to show you that there is actually 12. Um, Actually, there might be more when in this text, but it's, see, when it says permanent forever, okay, it's a statute. It's the highest important commands from our Creator. Then he commanded all Israel to kill on the fourth day from now. So I had to invent this time, and I've given, maybe it should be longer, but reasonably this would be the shortest amount of time that the word is spreading. They figure out who's going to eat with each other, and then they go, and then they're going to have a day of preparing for it, and then later that night they will celebrate and eat it. Not the lambs, but he defined it as a yearling, so I'm using yearling, okay? Okay, must eat it at twilight and celebrate. So at twilight means after the sun has not seen, uh, they begin to eat. Is passing over, and had to add YHVH'S passing over. Okay. And this is pretty much to fill in, because if you look at these verses I'm removing, this needs to be said so you understand what's going on here. And it will be not observed, it will be celebrate. I think it should have a D on the end here. And your descendants will know celebrate this event and as a statute forever. He's just repeating. But descendants from sons, I think I went over that enough. But this is maybe the first time in this text that I'm changing the word from this sons to descendants. So I try to make a highlight to show that, and then maybe next time I didn't. I don't want to explain it at every time here. These videos of trying to get as much as I can get into 40 minutes without repeating all the time, because in time to come, they're going to say, he's already said that. What's he saying? Okay. Struck the firstborn. Well, he killed. So when the word struck is being used, it means to kill sometimes. Example, how it's being used wrong. I think one of the disciples went and struck at somebody and cut his ear off. Well, you heard my explanation that you're using that much force, you would have went into his head or into his shoulder, but that didn't happen. He just cut off his ear without hitting the side of his head or anything. Oh boy, those disciples were really good with their swords, but it says they struck at him in one text, and the other text says he cut off his ear. So we know that the word struck is being used to mean come close to killing, or it is killed. But here we know it needs to be killed. So and they're slaves, not captives. They were slaves, okay? Egypt was powerful enough they didn't need to go raid another place to bring in slaves. Uh, One home, I had to add the word one to mean it was not one home. A male did not die, okay? Not someone had died. We know who they are. They're the firstborn males that died. So here again, those that are now going to be studying the text, if you go through it and you're saying you really don't trust me, you start correcting the text. And when you find a word like this and you correct it, note it, correct, put the text into a word processor. And I know people like coloring their Bible and thinking that's special. Wait until you put it into a word format. I mean, you can add comments, you can do all kinds of things, but the object here is to correct the wording. So you know the difference between when our Creator defines it as a tent for meeting, it should never be called a temple. When they say tabernacle, they're talking about the Holy of Holies, but you think the whole tent is a tabernacle. So it's very important to correct each word and keep that meaning throughout the text. And Moses was powerful enough, or no, this was the king, so he summoned. Okay, because I was going to say I used the word summon for Moses. Moses was their leader, so he summoned them as well. Commanded them to leave, rise up and get out. um, them rise up and they're going to leave. Okay. Um, Again, they did according to his word, and they asked the Egyptians around. See, I had to say around them for articles of silver and gold. Now, like I said, we know our Creator asked them also for bronze, but it doesn't fit in the format here. But the object here is I don't know if they had enough, if they used bronze for their kettles, their pots, so they had plenty. But the object is that uh, when I put in the word bronze, they needed to collect more because there's going to be a lot of bronze used. And I just don't think they had enough. So maybe you can blame me for fault for adding the word bronze. Um, Maybe that is an error that I've put into the text. Around them. And like I said, I needed the word around them because as they were leaving, they probably did this as well. People were probably freaking out that their sons had died because you got to remember they're waking up and the Israelis are packing up and leaving. So a lot of them would have come up to them, but they also were knocking on their doors and saying, "Hey, give us your silver and gold." And under threat, yes, you can see the Egyptians are saying, "You're the cause of it. Take whatever you want. Get out of here." You know, this type of attitude. Um, it's 600,000 men on foot, aside from their children. Well, what about their wives? Okay, how come the word wives aren't in here? When you read the text, example in the Matthew, Luke, Mark, and John, there is nothing about women. Women don't go to heaven. There is not a verse. And even in the text that I've done so far, I am yet to be able to find where women are included. Women are just excluded, and the excuse is because women were lesser. They aren't lesser. Our Creator made them equal, okay, to males. So the thing here is when it comes down to this number of 600,000, you got to include their women. And therefore, when you don't have your children, now we're talking, like I said before, 1,000,000 or more people. If you use the 600,000, even if I put 400,000, including their women, that's a lot of people on the move. How big can they control this community of people being made slaves to uh, to make their brick? That's why I'm saying I'm putting the word "for" in here it could have been lesser, because when you think of how many people are going to go, and right now, let's put it this way, um, people have been trying to prove where they were at for these 40 years, and that isn't true either. But for 40 years, they're saying human feces or crap in the desert stays that way for hundreds and thousands of years. Should be able to go around and find people's crap in this where they stayed for 40 years. Because in the desert, where are they going to go? But the object is there's no proof by human feces anywhere. Okay, not yet anyway. Because when I show the new location, that's one of the things that people have to go and investigate where I'm claiming they were at for not for 40 years, but for about a year. Now, here it shows for the first time mixed families. So Egyptians did go with them, okay? They did leave with them. So don't think they're all Israelis. They were mixed families. Now later they weren't mixed, and then again they fell apart and they were mixed families. But the object is here it is that they also left with them, and they're with their livestock. So it was the women of these families or the husbands taking their wives with them, okay? And they were Egyptians. Or because it says mixed, they weren't all Egyptians. As we know, there's other race colors in Africa and around them, Ethiopian, okay, for example. So the thing here is these also meant they were mixed with the families, okay? Now here, the timeline, I got rid of the word 30 because they lived in Egypt was 400. Now, I'm leaving the word years here because I could leave it alone and not put it there. But for reading the text over and over, I left the word years here. Was because if I left it as 100 years, the amount of people would not have been that many. I'm not thinking that way. I just, it's not convincing me enough to have that many people. Because when you stop and think of when the king did make them, yes, there was a large group of them. When a large group gets there, there's what, 300,000, 400,000? Well, what I'm saying is that this group of what it was, and then when Moses come back, he didn't come back 80 when he was 80 because there would have been no um, males to fight the battles that they're going to fight. So you got to understand the timeline is changing, everything. A lot is changing of what you're understanding. Once you see the truths and you reason them out, this number of 400,000 over 400 years is even speculative. That's why I say when you start looking at maybe 300,000, and that's including the women and children, yeah, that's fine. I'm using 400,000 because there's going to be a lot of males that are going to go to war. So they need a large group of males. So I'm saying 400, and that's what I'm going to try to keep there because if I change this to 300 years, look, all children didn't get born like they do today and get healed. A lot of children would die. So their birth rate of them dying and having sons and daughters, they might have had 4 living descendants from them, but they might have had 6 or 7 children, and they all didn't exist. You think your days are tough. The women that have lost a son or a child, they know the pain. Think back then, everyone experienced the death of a child in their family. So don't think you have your life that rough. Um, and then why he led them, his descendants, out of the city to the Red Sea. I'm adding the word Red Sea because when you go through all this text, we have the king going after him, and he gathered his army. So I have to have him gather his army, and then they go down there, and it's to the Red Sea is where they went. When the text is saying here, they knew they were going to the Red Sea. Here's the Red Sea. Now, that means I should be bringing in a map to show you what I'm talking about. And I didn't have that ready. Okay. This map. And let me get rid of me here on this because I need to blow this up. Whoops. No. That's the wrong button. Excuse me. I had to look to make sure my camera was up. Anyways, now this is what I'm saying is one path that it could have took from bringing Joseph down. Okay. Now the other path would have been down this way and around this way to get into Egypt. I don't know how large this river is at that time. When I'm looking at the river sizes, they could have had a bridge here for travelers to get through this way, because when you look at all this, look, this road, this highway has been around for 1,000 years already, or maybe 2,000 years before this happens. So at sometimes I'm thinking at Joseph's time that there was. Now the other path, like I said, is coming down through here. But what our Creator is going to do, okay, maybe I better explain this. The word On is in the Bible as the capital city, and then it was later changed to the word Memphis. I'm going to use the word Cairo later at all times to mean this, but I need this on the map to be explained why I'm doing this. But this capital city, and I'm having them, Israelis live south of them, for the simple fact that they have to be here near because the king talked to them. If they were above here, then they would have took this way out. Our Creator is going to lead them out, and he's taking them to the sea. So here it is. Now, as you can see, the mountains here is trapping them. When I was doing the text, and I told you that I know one correction was that he was going to take them to the sea. So the people knew he was taking them to the sea. They would have gotten nervous here. Why are we doing this? But they knew now that their Creator, or our Creator, was going to lead them away to the sea. So they would have not had a problem with that. Okay. So the thing here is maybe they were thinking maybe he's going to lead us down here for the promised land, or maybe we're going to walk along the shoreline here to get to here. But the object is, I don't know the land structure, but it had them trapped here. So this has to be the path that they left. And here along here, they were gathering the silver and gold from other people, okay, and bronze. So now you understand what the map is saying that he's going to here, because when they cross the sea, you have to have the land structure here to trap them and go across. Now, it could be anywhere around here, but we're going to see that they had trapped them, or they felt that they were trapped. Down here, it could have been here and they were led through. So there's two possibilities, or really, yeah, two possibilities where they cross. I picked this one because when you look at the distance, okay, we're talking 60 miles here, from here to here, 60 miles. Is that a 3 days walk? Is that a 3 days walk with everybody coming? And that's what they were told. It was going to be a 3 days journey to be by the sea. So the thing here is that's again why I didn't put it down here. This was closest to the sea for them, or in through here. But we know that the words trapped are going to be used, or have the understanding that they are trapped. But the object here is this is where they're going to be led into the sign, and they stayed here. This is where I'm saying they stayed, because there's going to be some text here that tells us that Moses went up a hill, not a Mount Zion, or whatever they're using, Horeb or whatever. But the object is they witnessed a fog coming from the north. So if they were over here, they could not have witnessed this fog coming from the north. Okay. And now I'm telling you all this ahead of time, but the object is Exodus is not going to have a lot of this text in here, but when they leave, they're going to go up into here. This is where they're going to start traveling. And like I said before, Abraham had walked through this area. Abraham had walked down this way, okay? I speculated here as well. But the object is he, when he came down through here, he could have went through here, but they're going to go into here, and he's going to send out spies from here, and they're going to have a war from here, and we're going to get into that in this in Exodus. And the object here is this has to be the only highest hill around that Moses is going to climb up with Aaron, and he's going to raise his staff, and they're going to battle him down and through here. Now, they need a water supply once they leave here, so you have to reasonably say they had to get to the river to fill up their water, okay? And when they travel again, they need to get to the water as soon as possible, because the water would have been gathered here, and then it would have been, look, these are miles. These are another 20 miles. So somewhere they had to stop along here. And by land structure, the quickest path is how I've decided this is the path that they took. But here, around this very area, is where they should be finding human feces, but not for 40 years. Okay. Now, where they were and why, and they camped to block us in. Now, I guess I'm adding the word blocked in. Let me see. Look, here it is where he's led them around by the way of the wilderness. Now, this wilderness is wrong. You've seen the map. He's leading them, and it's getting closer to being the desert instead of uh, fertile land. Okay. So, um, I'm trying to look here quicker. See, they set out from this place is where they said would have been living at the edge of the wilderness. This is just not truthful. But I guess this text is not really saying that they were trapped there. Because we're going to find another story here later where they were at, I believe. Or it's going to be told in another story somewhere in the text. Maybe I'm getting old and can't remember everything, but I'm going to say had blocked us in. And notice this is first person that the writers of that time would have wrote. So it has to be, I had to add the word us. And we led them by a pillar of cloud all daylight, not by day, but all daylight. Because here, a pillar was like fire, a fire light to lead them by the night, for Israel to travel, not travel, but walk by day and night. See, our Creator uses the word day to mean daylight and night. So you now know that again here, this writer does not obey our Creator and understand the Israelis at that time, how they would have wrote. Here's where in the sea will camp in front by the sea. I'm just trying to find if this is the text that says they were. has shut them in. Okay. So this is in this text here. It might not be in another one. So, anyways, um, but here has shut them in, meaning like that hill or the mountainous area, or the not mountains, but hilly area is where they were trapped. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that I have that in this. I'm glad I found it. um, as we were camping by the sea. So they got there, and then the Egyptians were mad. We saw the Egyptians and we became frightened. They knew they were trapped, okay? Or they knew they couldn't get out fast enough. I keep telling you about these carts. The planks of the carts are going to tell you how long these carts were. I'll get into that later. But the object is these carts, if they had to go along the coast, they couldn't. The land would have been, the carts are going to be very large. They would have been held down if they went by the bank of the sea. They just, it would have been just too sandy. They couldn't have made it. So they knew that they became very frightened. Now here it's talking about how Moses spoke to him ahead of time, but the text actually does pop up in a format. Moses told them, do not fear them, like Moses has already been told. The correct order of words are not here. Um, and I don't know if I moved them around later. We'll have to see. But um, then he took his walking stick and he went to the sea, and the wind parted. Not that the wind divided, but the wind parted really quick in front of him. Yes, it was a wind, and it parted and divided the sea. If you just raise a stick and it parted, uh, that doesn't um, have the meaning why the water was on dry land, I guess. So I'm adding, and a wind parted the water. And because the wind would have, they need visuals to see what's going on by our Creator. So I'm saying that the wind, so those that are reading a text and saying, well, this is a questionable, it's going to be questionable. I'm adding the word wind parted. How do you fill in the to make the 3-verse format? And everyone was amazed. Then his pillar moved between us and them. So don't think they just went in and they took their happy time. They needed to be ready, gear up, get ready. So now we know that they saw it because they were there. They seen this happen, and then they knew that they needed to get ready to go. And also a guard for us. I needed and stood because the cloud moved before them and stood. Well, it was a guard event that between them to guard them. They would have feared our Creator's cloud right there. Now, as they walked through the sea on dry land, um, and when the Egyptians had courage, took up is to have courage. So I'm adding the word courage. To pursue us, all of her king's chariots and horsemen. See, they didn't all die. Followed after us. Went in means followed, so I didn't make it a yellow word. Followed after us. Now, how long does this take place? Um, our Creator can make events happen fast or slow to us. I've had this happen to me before, and it was very strange. I've drove this road across Michigan many times. I think it was Highway 21. I haven't been there for 17 years, so I think it was Highway 21. And I know it's only maybe 2 hours, but I remember the time I started, and when I got there, it seemed like 5 hours passed. The clock told me it took me 5 hours. So a lot of time, and I was talking to our Creator, by the way, this whole time. So the thing here is I didn't notice cars passing me more than normal or anything, but that's what does happen to people. He can do whatever he wants. So the travel time to go through the length of that, don't try to think that, well, it took this time, this time, this time. Our creator can speed that up to make them think took them only a half hour, hour. So this understanding of time, you know that if you're trusting me, you trust the story I just said, because that's always been something in my head since it's happened. That how can that happen? Can't happen other than our creator doing that. He didn't stretch out. He waved his stick to cover them. Okay. Not just out like this. He waved his stick over them. And here it returned. I could use this verse or this, and this is, um, but the object is the waters returned. See, I didn't need to have this word returned here. It's here. Okay. So I'm going to use this verse instead of these words. Or the verses, I guess. And it's his will. I was trying to think of all the words here that's being added. Um, it was our not great power. It was his will. He doesn't need power to do this. Those that don't believe our creator would have had to use great power, but the object is our creator just willed it to happen. Like I said, even the time would have been shortened for them. And our people feared our creator because they finally realized that they're all seeing something that can only done by our creator. And they didn't believe him. They trusted him. Okay. Not in YB, but how can you trust in YB? Okay. Or it would have been our Lord. Trust in our Lord. Trust in Lord. I think it would have been the Lord. Yeah. Trust in the Lord. So I needed the word trust, not believed in believed in the Lord. So they trusted Wyvie now. They knew he existed. He's done this in front of them. Now they have courage unbelievable. When Moses commanded them, their creator said, this is what we're going to do as a nation. That's why they had such a strong knowledge. They didn't have a belief like people today. They knew our creator exists. There's a big difference between knowing we have a creator and a belief in our creator. And just as this trust, I just said there, when you believers finally understand that I have been sent by our creator, it is to bring your belief to a trust that you don't have to have this wonder that's happening before you is prophecy. And this is what prophecy is like. So, as a nation into the Sinai, I needed, when it says from the Red Sea, I needed these words here to be added, not these words here, because I wanted you to know where it's at. Because into the Sinai, then he went 3 days wilderness. As you just seen, 3 days can be 60 miles. Okay. So the object here is they were prepared to leave the first day. 20 miles a day is quite fast for traveling with carts and children. Okay. So to travel another 3 days into the wilderness, where'd they go? Let me show you something here. Maybe let me bring this up. And let me go to, I'm just going to search for maps. So where do I do that? Oh, I think I'll do it right here. And then go to images. No, look at these. Do you really think these carts went up and over these? I mean, this is not very, see how narrow these paths are? But where is, a map. Maybe it's geographical that I need. Geographical sign it's right there. Okay. Look at this map here. And how come it's not pulling up? Yep, right when you want something to happen. But the object is okay. You've all been told that they went from here and then they went through these mountains and over here and then back over here to get into Saudi Arabia. They can't travel with carts over this area. I'd like to try to pull up just to show you here. Look at where's their height. I guess it doesn't have it plainly here. I'd have to go to their site. But these are truly high, very high hills, could be called mountains in this range here. But when you do take a look at these maps, and I hope you do study it, see, these are all going to be all the places that they went to. But nobody talks about the carts that they're bringing through this area. All right. Remember, the carts are very important. How big are the carts? How long are these carts? Really, seriously, think about that, because that is going to be actually the dimension is going to be given to us. The lengthwise is anyway. But they're now in the desert, and they complain to Moses. Again, let me pull this up. So to go from here to here, this 3 days walk, look, this has got to be 20 miles. So, and this has got to be another 20 miles. So was it a 3 days walk again from here to there? At this time, they had their water. They still had a supply. Remember how you got to give water to the oxen. Okay. So I'm thinking that because the description of the story is here, where he's going to strike the rock for the water for everybody. So maybe they did travel that far, and it's like I said, our Creator can change time so easily. I mean, people think they're scared of IA technology coming over and robots ruling man. Our Creator's trillions of billions and trillions of years he's existed. You have no idea about our Creator's knowledge and what he can do. But you're not used to thinking like that. I am. So it's really, to me, wonder. It is just, oh, well, anyways. And they complained most. They didn't grumble. They complained like, how or what are we going to eat? Now, this is the order that's wrong. So here they're going to get manna first. And like I said, if they're out there, where's the meat at this time? Because I know that he's given them quails, I believe. Let's see here. Okay, on the seventh day is where I'm gonna have it put. There's 6. Maybe this should be smaller now that I've looked at the map. I'm gonna think about that and change that, because it could be another 3 days. I think that's going to be more correct than what I've got here. Pretty much, I know I'm going to change this date now. And then in the morning, look. Yeah, in the morning you will look. and the bread fell every morning. No, I'm looking for this north. Um, okay, here's quails coming up. Now, quails are going to come into our camp for them to eat. So instead of killing their flocks, he's going to not have them. He's going to let them take it because when they go into the other places, they need to be able to eat. So our creator's going to give them quails into the camp. And there was this fog around the camp, not a layer of dew, because when it faded, behold the land. Example, a dew does not happen. A fog, it has to be a fog that came in, okay? And then our creator made it happen, gave them manna. Now, the thing here is I'm using fog because a layer of dew, what is a layer of dew? A layer of fog? That sounds more like it, not a layer of dew on the ground, because that's just the chilling of the air being condensation between the wind chilling and the surface of the um, land causing this dew. Or yes, a dew. So the thing here is the fog had to come around the camp, and then when it faded, not evaporated, but faded, behold, the land, not the surface is known by them as land, were cakes. Now here, they said there's fine flake, and they didn't know what it was, and then they made it. Our creator said he was going to feed them, so that has to be cakes that were there, okay? And they looked and did not know it was strange, did not know it was the word strange, but they had to look and see what is it, for they looked strange to us. Moses is describing it as manna, your bread. So when I made the word cakes, I used this here area here, your bread. Okay, you didn't have to gather this stuff up like you would like frost on the ground. That's just not true. It was bread and it was there. Got to remember when Jesus fed the 300 or 400 people, not the 5,000. They told him it was very much like manna, meaning it was instant, it was there. Okay. Um, 48 minutes. Dude, time out. Gotta go.